welcome. This is the monthly class I do. This time it's on breathwork, 3 reasons why breathwork is so valuable. This will be largely an overview of a couple of breathing techniques, what they're doing for the body, the mind, the spirit, and the emotions, and getting into a bit of the nervous system and some of the interactions with the body and the mind and why these breathing techniques are so powerful. In fact, a lot of what people are realizing is we're not even breathing fully. And when we are breathing, it's an inhale and then a really quick exhale. And so it's imbalanced breath, and it's actually creating this level of stress just with our very breath. And I'll get into why that's the case, why we're such shallow breathers. So again, this is 3 reasons why breath work is so valuable. I'm doing this just because I'm inspired to learn and study a little more. I lead the breath work ceremonies every Wednesday, and then on Saturdays, I do a more mild version with square breathing and other different breathing techniques. And this is a free class, an offering I do to the community or to help my education, the education of others, and just to share resources. And so for me, the number one reason why breath work is so valuable is the connection to our consciousness, to our very presence. And to me, that's everything. That when we tune into the breath, we're aware of all that is inside of us. And the more we're aware of what's inside and more we're able to dance and calm that down with these different breathing techniques, the more we start to notice and look out in a different way at the reality that's being projected from us. So we're realizing more and more as a collective that it all starts inside. Everything is inside. Whatever we're looking for is coming from within. And all the great teachers have told us that. And yet, what does that mean? And it's not an intellectual thing, it's more of a feeling, conscious presence thing. And so for the breath work, it absolutely brings us into that consciousness that when we take a big inhale and then exhale, there's a feeling with that, and a feeling beyond the thinking about what's happening. In fact, it actually calms down the mind and it slows everything down when we are consciously breathing or consciously aware of what was largely unconscious previously. And so again, that's the focus. The breath brings us into the focus of the consciousness, and we begin to dance with all things. So as we breathe in, you can even do it right now. You notice as you breathe in, there might be some tension in the chest, in the shoulders. And when you let go, it might be kind of shaky, but the more we breathe in and let go, the more there's like this back and forth fluid motion, this slowing down, this tuning into the inside, going within. And especially when we're doing equal breaths, equal inhale, equal exhale. And so with this presence, with this consciousness, we're able to overcome our habits. So much is unconscious. We just go through the motions. We're impulse to do things, and we're not always present until like halfway down the road. We're like, oh, wait, I totally drove by the store I was trying to drive to, because the mind is pulling us somewhere else. But when we come to the breath, that's right here, that's right now. That's the feeling of the breathing in and the letting go. And so when we catch things, we can create new habits. We can break those patterns and get away from them. And that's largely what the last 2 newsletters were about, was basically the power of habit, whether it was to eat a certain kind of food or act a certain way, or to actually suppress our emotions, to not want to feel the emotion. Like as soon as emotion would come up, we'd be like, oh, I need to get away from this. I'm going to go get up and eat something, and I'm going to think about what this is and try to figure it out, or I'm going to try to dismiss it as not being real or here in this moment, or why is this happening? Like all these things besides just breathing, besides just being present and breathing. And that's largely what shifts everything, is when we can be present with the emotion, with the thoughts, with the very reality that we ourselves have created with those thoughts and emotions. Then we're able to shift it. We're able to dance with it. We're able to be right there with it and allow it to be released. rather than turning away from it and allowing it to move us around. Again, it's the increased perception. The more we increase this perception, this presence, that actually shoots us up a level of consciousness where all of a sudden we notice something we never noticed before. And then we're like, oh my God, this is amazing. And that's the nature of our reality, is that there is no time. It's all just frequency and vibration. And every possible scenario and situation has played out. And it's a matter of us shifting our frequency. Like everything's playing out at the same time. There's all these different realities all around us. And as we slow down and we release the emotions and we release the negative thoughts, or even the thoughts in general of what we think reality is, something new is presented to us because we go to a different frequency where another thing is existing at the exact same time. We're just letting go and allowing ourselves to rise to that new reality. It doesn't always happen instantly, but it can. And so that's largely what I see as the great masters were telling us, is to look within, and the breath is the key to that. And then the more we did that, the more we found that love and the joy and the peace that exists within. And the more it elevated our consciousness, and the more we looked out at a beautiful world, even despite what may be considered a negative thing, we saw the beauty in that being playing a role in our lives. Whether it was Jesus being crucified or Gandhi being persecuted, they saw the role that being was playing. And they still had love for them despite what was happening. And not that we would have to go through such extremes, but a lot of it is similar, where there's going to be things that we don't enjoy and would prefer not happen. And yet if we face it with presence, it's easier to navigate and it's not as overwhelming. And we actually see at a deeper level what it's about in that moment rather than years down the road. And largely that's why the breath is so powerful, because many of our extreme experiences, what people would call trauma, was like a holding of the breath, especially when we were younger and something shocked us. It was and then that part of us was like frozen in time. And then when it would come back to visit us, we would feel that same energy of that stuckness, and we'd try to get away from it rather than breathing with it and really feeling it and acknowledging that part that never really got to move forward, that was essentially frozen in time. And so the more it shows up, the more opportunity we have to be with that little girl or boy and be like, it's okay, I got you. We don't have to tell them even they're safe. We just need to breathe and feel that connection we have to them. And the more we breathe, the more they feel comforted, and the more they can elevate and look around at their reality, which is the reality you're in, and be like, whoa, I'm not in that situation anymore. I'm not even a little kid anymore. I'm this grown person that's very capable. And that's, again, not a thinking thing. It's just a breathing thing. And this is the value of just regular breath. And most of us aren't breathing regularly. We're doing an inhale, shallow inhale, and then breathing out right away. And we're not getting that balance. And I'll explain why that's important. Life force energy is the second most valuable thing with breath work, because it'll increase the oxygen, improves the blood flow. It actually helps move the lymph in the system, helps move the lymphatic system along, which is basically like the body's sewage system, of whatever excess fluids or things that need to be removed and moved out of the body or reabsorbed into the body is moved through the system. And when we're not exercising or when we're not doing deep breaths, it gets stuck and stagnant. And so a lot of disease is the result of a stuck, stagnant lymphatic system. And so there's dry brushing, there's exercise, and also the deep breath work. Taking deep breaths actually move a lot of the lymph we have here in the chest and the belly. And also research is showing that with breath holds, when you take a big deep inhale and hold your breath for a period of time, it's actually releasing human growth hormone into the system. With this breath work, a lot of it actually creates tension and stress. Stress is actually healthy for us, believe it or not, but we've had so much of it for such a prolonged period of time that it's actually deteriorating our circulatory system. When the vessels are constantly restricted and the heart's pumping really hard and our blood pressure is high constantly, it wears everything out. But actually all this is beneficial in short bursts. And that's why some of the breathing techniques like the Wim Hof method is really valuable. It's actually triggering stress response, and it's getting everything amped up, and it's releasing all these hormones and even stress hormones, but then there's a calming down afterwards and a letting go. And that's what's often lacking in our day-to-day life, is we're not getting enough oxygen and we're getting stressed out, but then we're not letting go. We're not doing the breath hold. We're not doing the exhales, and we're not nearly as conscious either. A lot of it is trying to push away. And again, just take in what resonates with this and discard the rest. I'm not a physician or anybody that can give advice or say what's what, but I'm here to present a perspective, and if it resonates, great. If not, don't worry about it. And so breathwork also brings better sleep, and really it's just overall better mental health, emotional and physical health. It's a tremendous benefit to just breathe. And number 3, it's really amazing nervous system regulation. And for me, the funnest part of that is breaking habits of reactions to situations, where as like anxiety and depression are perfect examples of basically suppressing the breath. When we have anxiety, we're breathing faster, it's shallow, and it's creating this racing heart. And at any moment we can catch that. And we were never really taught that, like, oh, you can use the breath and slow it down. We were told to count to 10 if you're angry and stuff like that, but not always like to be present with it and actually feel it and then breathe. And so again, it would be taking a big deep inhale and then the slow exhale. And even if the exhale is longer than the inhale is better, because that actually slows everything down. So when we expand the lungs, the heartbeat increases. And this is because it's taken more of the oxygen. The blood's going to take more of the oxygen through the body. And when we exhale, it slows the heartbeat. And that activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is what the vagus nerve can directly connect us to. And so that's why a lot of times in our ceremonies and stuff, I teach everyone about the decompression breath, which I'll talk about a little later. And so a little bit more about the nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system is both the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, and they're resource-based. So if you're using one, the other one's not going to be as active. And so what's happening is, as a collective, most of us are extremely weighted in the sympathetic nervous system activation, where that's much more activated, and this parasympathetic isn't getting as much attention, isn't utilizing the energy for things such as digestion, healing, immune system, reproduction. The sympathetic nervous system, when it's activated, it's this big burst of energy that gets us away from danger, or to fight danger, or even freeze and pretend we're dead so that danger walks away and isn't interested. And this is very linear tunnel vision type response. And I'm sure anybody that's had extreme anxiety knows what it's like to you just can't really think clearly. All you can kind of see is this narrow vision of everything. You can walk in a room and people be waving to you and you won't even see them. It's really a weird thing, but that's the sympathetic nervous system being overactivated, and all designed for us to run and get away and just be focused on survival. And when we're in that energy, our digestion shuts down. Our ability to heal is shut down. Our reproduction shuts down, because none of that is needed when we're running away from something or fighting it. That all gets turned on later, but not if we're constantly in this stress response, not if we're constantly doing the shallow breathing quickly, and even running the thoughts in our head that create that sensation. And so with the sympathetic nervous system, it's going to restrict the blood flow, making the blood flow go faster. And it also is going to be raised shoulders, when we take really deep breaths, it fills the belly up into the chest. And then if you keep going, it actually will raise the shoulders. And this is also a stress response from being able to protect ourselves. And also we know that different hormones are released, like cortisol and other stress response hormones, which are actually really beneficial, but too much of it becomes inflammatory to the body. And that's what a lot of people are struggling with, is this inflammation from these stress hormones that are actually designed to help us. But again, this habit of sympathetic nervous system stimulation is really like affecting a lot of people. And so I'll go over a way to help balance that out and really the way out of that. And then as far as the parasympathetic nervous system, so you're able to consciously activate this, no matter how stressed out or scared or nervous or frozen we feel. Because of the vagus nerve, we can bypass what is a largely unconscious process and you make it conscious. And so this vagus nerve activates the lungs, the heart, and the digestion. And so when we do a big, deep inhale, especially a long, slow exhale, that's activating that vagus nerve. It's slowing down the heart. It's getting everything to just calm down. And it's not so much that we're upset is an issue, it's the catching when we're upset and then having the tool to slow everything down. And that's this breath. And again, the consciousness is so important too, that we have to be with the breath, not with the thoughts in our head of what just happened, what might have happened, what happened last time. Like none of that's going to help us because none of that is real. It's all just thoughts in our head of what could have been. But what is the breath. And once we're out of that situation, it's largely over, but the reaction's still there. And every time we think of it, the reaction comes back. And again, that's what the habitual response is that most of the population is going through, this trauma response to things that have happened to them, even little minor things. And they want to make sure it doesn't happen again. And so they'll bring that thought forward. They'll think about it, try to figure out what needs to be done differently. And all along the body is like, oh my God, this is happening again. So there's these stress hormones being released. There's the shallow breathing. And again, not as conscious. And so the more we activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the more we're going to get the benefits of better sleep, reduced stress, tension relief, and especially digestion. And again, this is the breath as being an active participant with life and how we can create a new habit of living with presence. In fact, I was doing research for this class, I found that a number of psychologists and mental health workers that recommend people do a 5-5-365 breathing, 5 minutes for 365 days a year of this breathing technique. Okay, so these are the 3 breathwork examples I came up with. There's many, many different ones. The most important one I feel is the decompression breath, because that's the one, because so many of us are in that fight or flight or freeze or have these elevated levels of stress or digestive issues. This is the one that really works to slow everything down and release whatever's pent up or held. This one is the inhale in through the nose and a long, slow exhale out through the mouth. And with this one, the key is a longer exhale. That's the actual decompression. That's the actual release of what is being held, whether that's the tension, the thoughts, the emotions, all that energy. And in fact, let us do a couple of those. We'll work on the actual belly breath rather than the chest breathing and the raising of the shoulders, which is all part of the stress response. So you put one hand on your chest and one on your belly. You can close your eyes. And as you breathe in through the nose, feel as if that air is going straight down into your tailbone. Feel how the belly comes out as you do that, and then into the chest. And a long, slow exhale out through the mouth. And breathe in through the nose, fill in the belly, up into the chest, but not raising the shoulders. And a long, slow exhale. And one more, breathing in and out. So if you do that whenever you feel stressed, like 30 seconds or a minute, or when there's intense emotion, to just breathe and expand, but not so high as that the shoulders go up, and then allow that release. That's going to help move things out. That's going to help move that emotion. It's going to help relieve the tension. Because as the sympathetic nervous system gets triggered, all the muscles get tight, the breath gets shallow, and we can't really process that emotion. We can't really release it. It's actually being held by the very mechanism that's designed to protect us. And so that's where the consciousness comes in, is where we use our consciousness to be the one that sets a new lifestyle, that sets a new way of being. And we do this every time we catch it, it'll start to shift how our brain is wired and how we automatically respond to things. This is what they call neuroplasticity. But the more we create these new neural pathways by being conscious, by being aware, catching what's happening, using this tool of the decompression breath to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the more we're able to shift into becoming a calmer, more relaxed person rather than somebody that's stressed out or anxious or feeling overwhelmed emotionally, whatever the case is that we have that struggle with. And that can just be a case-by-case basis where things will come to us and we'll automatically know what to do. We've conditioned ourselves to do it. And so the other breath I found really valuable is the balanced breath. And this is really just how normal human beings breathe, or how like a baby would breathe. Because as we breathe in, we breathe into like a 5 count, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then back out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's it. That's basically how ideally we would be breathing, but a lot of us are overstimulated. And so there's this shallow breath of breathing in and out. And now you can do it a lot myself. I'm realizing how much that you can be a dojo master, but go out into the world and not really even use it. I'm not saying I'm a master or anything, but like I do all this breath work, but I'm also realizing I'm still breathing really shallow. And so this balanced breath is really the key of who we truly are. When we're really relaxed and calm, it's going to be a balanced breath of an inhale for 5 seconds, exhale for 5 seconds. And this is where the 5 minutes a day for 365 days is really important. Like if we put in the time to consciously breathe for 5 minutes a day, it's going to help shift a lot of what we experience when life happens to us, and life's going to get better. And it's not that anything really changed on the outside, it's just our response to it changed. The third one is the square or box breathing, which is my favorite because not only is it, you're getting that inhale of equal amount, you're also holding for the equal amount, releasing, and then holding at the bottom. And so you're getting that human growth hormone release with the breath holds. It helps keep the mind active too. Like the mind's kind of focused on the counting, the holding. And so there's something about a box that's really like conducive for the mind to be able to grab onto and focus on. It likes mathematics, it likes figuring things out, it likes, square things, whereas the spirit, other things would be more circular and more round and more of a paradox. But the mind likes it this or that. If it's not this, then it's that. So square breathing helps a lot with doing that. So if you guys are up to it, we'll go ahead and do a little square breathing, help get us dropped in a little more. Okay, so just close your eyes. Take a couple normal breaths. Try the balanced breath, breathing into 5. And then immediately letting go out, down to 5. Into the nose, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so that's the ideal breath for us throughout our day. And that's the balanced breathing. And this would be ideal to do for 5 minutes every day. And then when you really want to like relax and really slow everything down, if you're having trouble sleeping or it's been a really stressful day, this is where the square breathing would come in. In fact, they teach this to military personnel, to people with post-traumatic stress, because it's really so calming and so relaxing, and it has so many benefits to just help the body reset and do what it needs to do without any extra interference. And so let us do a couple of rounds of that. I always start with a 5 count, and then I go to a 10 count. And sometimes that's too much for people, but you'll find like that first 5 count, it's really just kind of relaxing and slowing everything down. And as we're calm and relaxed and the body's loose, you're able to breathe deeper and longer and hold it for longer. Because again, it's the parasympathetic nervous system, whereas the sympathetic nervous system, everything would be tight and tense and ready to run and breathe really fast. So let us drop into that space of the relaxation, of the letting go. Focus on the breath and the belly. If you can feel the belly breath before you even get started. Breathe in the expansion. Let go, comes back. Do a 5 count on the square breathing. Breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. Release, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold at the bottom. Breathing in again, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold at the top. Releasing back down, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold at the bottom. Breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold. 5. Release. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold at the bottom. 2, 1. One more inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold at the top. 3, 5. And just let go. And go back to that balanced breathing. Try to get a 5 count breathing in and a 5 count breathing out. Noticing any tension or tightness as you do it. Just relaxing with the out breath. Just notice how good that feels to get that full amount of oxygen charging up the cells of the body, getting the blood flow going, creating the balance between the two nervous systems so that you're energized but also relaxed and calm. Feel the presence it requires to be aware of this breath, breathing in and out. In and out. Now that we're nice and calm, we'll do a 10 count on the square breathing. Go even deeper to the relaxation, to the stillness. Breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Hold at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Release back down. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold at the bottom. 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now just take a big deep breath. Notice what kind of breath you want to take. And let that go. And notice, are you holding your breath, or what's the breath doing naturally in this moment? And come back to that balanced breathing, breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. In and out. In and out. Now with your consciousness, just notice if there's any tingling in your head or your hands, whatever's coming into your awareness. And just breathe with it, whatever it is. And stay with the breath. Balanced breathing, equal breath in, equal breath out. It feels like emotion that's kind of intense or tightness, use a little longer exhale. That's the tool of release, not trying to figure it out. Because if that worked, it wouldn't linger for as long as it does. Use the long, slow exhale to release whatever's there. Whatever the irritation is, whatever the noise is, whatever's happening, just be with the breath. So we can use this when things are happening around us that are out of our control. We can use this breath, this balanced breathing, this decompression breath, and even the square breathing to help slow us down so that we can navigate what's around. We can dance more smoothly with all the chaos. Thank you so much.